Welcome to the GateDrop podcast. GateDrop.com, giving you the jump in motocross news.
Hello everyone and welcome to the GateDrop.com podcast. Today we are looking at the British Grand Prix that happened just at the weekend there, and what a GP it was. We were at the race. It was great to be there with fans. Quite a lot of fans actually, even though it was just 4,000, but they filled the arena pretty well. And the atmosphere was fantastic, especially for the British riders. I want to welcome in Andy Mckinstry. Andy, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. Yep, unbelievable just to be back in the GP paddock again. My last one was Valkenswaard last year with the pandemic and COVID, and lockdown was tough for people. So it was nice. Aside from the racing being unbelievable, it was nice just to see people in the paddock again, some friendly faces, and good to speak to them and get all the buzz around the paddock. It was fantastic just to be part of it all again.
Yeah, on Friday everyone was very relaxed, perhaps with the GP guys not starting until Sunday, but even the EMX riders who had the race the next day, everyone was relaxed. Everyone was seemed to be having a good time, and obviously the weather helped. It looked like we were going to have 3 days of rain, but fortunately with 2 days of sun, and even the rain on Sunday held off pretty good until the final moto. But all in all, it was a very good weekend. The track looked absolutely perfect on Friday. I think that they did a great job with it in the main, and all the riders seemed to enjoy that place, enjoy the layout. But it was definitely a very good GP, and the racing, as we will discuss here, was absolutely fantastic on both days.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at the weather forecast coming into it, if you'd have told me leading up that it would get sunburnt on Friday and Saturday, I wouldn't have believed you. But then it doesn't take an awful lot for us boys to get sunburnt. But
it was Ireland.
Exactly. But so that side of it was great, and like you said, everyone was nice and relaxed on the Friday. There was actually a lot more GP riders in the paddock on the Friday than I thought there was going to be. Quite a lot came on the Friday and watched all the EMX stuff on the Saturday before the main day on the Sunday, and I know a few of the guys even went and rode on a practice track on Saturday. So yeah, it was great to be there, and all in all, successful GP. Crowds and the atmosphere was great, and brilliant GP.
Yeah, the one thing we noticed as well was with the COVID test, and the queue for the test centre at the track was pretty long, and that's one thing that is pretty unique to last season and this season, is all the testing everyone has to do. And I don't think that's ideal for anybody, but in the situation we're in, it's just something everybody has to put up with this season.
Exactly. We should just be grateful at the moment that there is racing, and In Front Moto Racing done a fantastic job last year when things were even more difficult, and slowly but surely we're getting back to normality. So even though the testing's a bit of a pain, fingers crossed in 3 or 4 months' time, whenever more people are double vaccinated, things can be a bit more normal. And the next step, I suppose, is getting fans back into the paddock.
The one thing I would say about the format, although it is absolutely necessary for this season, with the EMX on a Saturday and just the MXGP class on a Sunday, it definitely seemed to lack a wee bit of extra hype on the Saturday with no GP riders. I definitely prefer, having experienced both there, I definitely prefer the 2-day format where you have the free practice, time qualifying and a heat race for the GP riders on the Saturday. And then you also get EMX racing on the Sunday in the regular format. I think that's definitely the best format. Understandable this year why they're doing it this way, but I'm hoping next year they will go back to the 2-day format. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I do prefer the 2-day format, although it doesn't annoy me as much when it's both EMX 125 and EMX 250 on the Saturday, but because I still really enjoy that, and the racing on the Saturday was still very good. So I wouldn't say I overly missed the GP action on the Saturday, but it's whenever it's the women's and the EMX 2-stroke, still very good championships, but not quite as competitive as both the EMX 125 and EMX 250's championships. So whenever they're both not on the Saturday, I think the Saturday will be a lot worse. But either way, the 2-day format's definitely better, because seeing the GP guys on the Saturday helps build it up for the Sunday. You can see who's adapting to the track, this, that, and the other, instead of it just all being on the Sunday.
Yeah, I think the anticipation builds slower and perhaps elevates the Sunday even more, because you have the free practice, who's going well, time practice, and then you have the race. So you come into Sunday wondering if that's how it's going to go today, if it's going to be different. Will the track have any alterations? And then they still get a warm up on the Sunday, and then off they go for the racing. At Matterley there, it's very, very fast. The Sunday is just all gone. It starts quick and it ends fast. And next thing, the GP's over, and you almost want a wee bit more.
Yeah, pretty much. You summed it up well there. But yeah, I enjoyed the way it was run, and with the EMX action on the Saturday and GP on the Sunday. Like I said, the EMX racing was great, and yeah, that's the only thing you miss really. The GP guys on the Saturday, and not being able to see who's doing what at the track on the Saturday, and seeing who can bring the momentum to the Sunday. Although one thing I would say is you definitely do miss the MXGP qualifying race, because MX2 time practice is very enjoyable because it's very intense, and the riding style of the 250, they're just pinned. Whereas the MXGP guys, you definitely miss a race for them, because time practice, the way you ride a 450, it's not as aggressive, and it wouldn't be as good to watch whenever they're just going for fast laps and not in a race. So I definitely did miss the MXGP qualifying race.
Yeah, on a 450, you can't exactly pin it everywhere. You have to use a bit of throttle control and a bit of sense around especially Matterley Basin, because it was pretty slick and slut in some parts and going up the jumps as well. It wasn't a track to just leave things wide open coming out of a turn. But I think we just have to start with one guy, Antonio Carulli. What a GP and what a start to the season he's had. He came out flying in qualifying. He was obviously still motivated and still angered by that mistake in Russia. It cost him 22 points and really has put a bit of a gap. I think it's around 30 points still between him and championship leader Tim Geiser. But Carulli came out firing in qualifying. His first lap in both motos was actually very impressive. He went straight to the lead. He wasn't waiting around. It was like Carulli from MX2. There's no doubt he was on a mission this weekend. And first moto, he was just gone. He looked like he was on rails all moto, that he had more speed whenever he needed it. Prado was keeping him fairly honest, so it looked like Carulli was managing it. And when Prado got a wee bit close, I think around the 8-minute mark, Carulli just dropped his time by a second and a half, and just broke Prado. And from there, he just controlled it. And it shows you just how motivated he is, and still just the raw talent and the awareness of where he is and where his competition are to control a race like that, and just have the speed in reserve to just pin it for one lap. This was like a Carulli from his early days in MXGP, where he would often just control a race with a few seconds, and if he needed to turn it up for a lap or two, he was able to, and he did that on the first moto. Second moto, similar story at the start. He went from third to first, but then the intensity on the rain, I think, got to him a wee bit, because all the top guys were out front, and it was a pretty phenomenal first 10 minutes. Very exciting. All the major title contenders all banging bars. But Carulli composed himself. He actually dropped back to fifth, got back to third, found his pace again, and closed a bit on Geiser and Febvre. And it was those three who had the pace over everyone else. And Carulli again had the pace of all these guys that are 10, 15 years younger than him. He admitted in the press conference after that he sort of gave the other two the right to fight for the win with a couple of laps to go, because he was feeling a bit tired and he didn't want to risk losing the overall victory, which I believe is his 93rd now. It's pretty incredible. He's closing in on Everett's 101 wins. But he has the presence of mind still to play it smart, but he also seems to have his raw speed back now that he's feeling a lot more healthy.
Exactly that. At the very start of Sunday, you just knew the guy was up for it. Time practice isn't usually his forte. He usually just does what he needs to do. Top 5 will be fine for me. That's fine. But no, he was motivated. He wanted that pole position. He got it. Very impressive. Like you said, phenomenal in the motos. Absolutely phenomenal. 35 years old to go at that pace. Check that man's ID. Unbelievable to be that speed at 35 years old. Very, very impressive. The level's incredible, and to win at 35 years old, he's going to be challenging this year. If it wasn't for that second moto in Russia, he'd be right there in the points. Maybe even the red plate. Who knows? But so impressive, so impressive. The guy doesn't get the respect that he deserves to be riding a bike that quick at his age. And honestly, I'm starting to think now, will we see him back next year? Who knows? He looks like he's enjoying it. He's got the pace. Obviously, there's a long way to go, but wouldn't it be great if we've seen him back for another year? Because if he doesn't get the 10th world title, he could definitely be knocking on the door for the average GP overall victory.
Yeah, and I was talking to Jeffrey Hurlings about it, and he'd nothing but respect for Tony, and he even said himself he wasn't expecting him to come out this fast this season in Russia, and then secondly in Matterley Basin. He knows now that Caroli and Geiser are two guys he's going to have to try and up his pace to match. But Caroli, as Hurling just said, is turning 36 this year, so he will be 36 before the end of this season. And the fact he's a legitimate on-raw speed title contender at his age, where he gets the motivation, I don't know, but it's his talent, and he surely has to be up there in a debate for who the greatest rider of all time is. And if somebody said him, you can't really argue. There's obviously Ricky Carmichael, Stefan Everts, and guys like that. Maybe throw a Jean-Michel Bale in there, but Caroli's has to be in amongst that discussion now. 9 world titles, winning GPs against an extremely tough competition in MXGP in 2021 at 35, and he's soon to be 36 years old and doing it on raw pace. Unbelievable.
Yeah, like you said, Jeffrey did not expect him to be that as fast as he was in the first 2 rounds. I don't think too many people would have done, because it's not normal. It's simply not normal to be that quick at 35. There would be the running top 5 is really good. So to be showing this speed, and also at these kind of tracks don't necessarily suit Caroli. In the past, slick tracks has sort of been his weak area. So to show the speed at these kind of tracks, whenever it starts hitting tracks that he enjoys and likes, and especially with the sand GPs coming up, it's going to be fascinating. It really is. And absolutely, for me, I think as unbelievable as Stefan Everts was, if I had to pick between him or Caroli for who's the GP GOAT, I think I have to go with Caroli, just because of how high the level is these days. The level is unbelievable. The speed in that MXGP class is just insane, and for Caroli to be at the top of the tree at Mallory is just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, and I think, as Jeffrey said, Tony deserves huge respect from everyone. Hurlings has said himself he's huge respect for him, and everyone needs to have that respect, because what he's doing is pretty much unparalleled. You know, Ricky Carmichael and those guys are retiring in their late 20s, early 30s. Stefan Everts stayed until 33 years old, and he went out on top with 10 world titles. But Caroli's now 35, 36, and he's still winning. I think it's almost beyond words what he's able to do at the minute.
It absolutely is. And you know, when we look back at, there was a few years when he had it tough with injuries, whenever Fevre won the title and Geiser won the title as a rookie, and you were sort of thinking, would Caroli ever get back to this level? Was it the injuries? But he's clearly proved that those years, it was obviously the injuries affecting him. And even last year, the knee wasn't great. And I think if it hadn't been for triple formats last year, he would have got closer to the title. But because he needed more recovery time in between each GP for his knee, that also cost him. So there was a few years there, maybe 3 years, he could have won the title if just things had have went his way on the injury front. A few injuries have made it difficult, and it's going to be difficult to get the 10th Grand Prix title, but to get 9 is absolutely unbelievable, and still to be winning at his age is just insane. And I think it'll be a long time until a rider like Caroli comes along in terms of longevity.
And I think the thing too about yesterday was, as you get older, a lot of guys tend to lose that intensity and early race speed. But the impressive thing about yesterday was Caroli's first laps. He wasn't waiting around for anyone. He was intent to make it his race and to get to the front and stamp his authority on the race. That didn't completely go to plan in the second one, but he was able to recover his rhythm after that. But the mindset of the guy after Russia and after the riding injured the last couple of years, just to go out and essentially redeem himself from Russia, and of the determination and the ability to execute at his age is in those early laps against a young guy like Prada, who's known for his starts and first lap pace, and even Geiser, who's the same, to go and just put those early laps in and take charge was pretty amazing.
Yeah, very, very impressive. He actually impressed me probably. I know he was unbelievable in the first moto and he won it, but the way that he caught Fevre and Geiser in the second moto, I think the gap was maybe 5 seconds at one point, and he got it down to less than 3, and he was really hauling. And I thought at one stage he was going to get right in the mix. But with about 3 laps to go, he was just happy enough with the overall and done the sensible thing. But I was really impressed with how he caught those two in the second moto as well, because they were hauling. That was everything they had, I think. And for him to catch is very, very impressive.
Yeah, it's just a shame he had that DNF in Russia, because otherwise he would have been right there with Tim. But he still has that points gap to try and overcome. And Geiser will move on to Tim Geiser now. He doesn't look like he's ready to make a mistake anytime soon. He's won 3 out of 4 motos, but the moto he didn't win, he said he didn't want to take any risks, and he was actually quite happy with the 4th, because, as a few guys have said, the track was very flat, especially at the start of the day with MXGP and practice on the first moto. They levelled it. I'm not quite sure why they did that after the MX2 race. So the race is on the Saturday, so the track was pretty flat. And Tim said as everyone was going a similar pace, and to try and pass people, you had to take a big risk. And in 4th place, he wasn't willing to take that risk, but he said his riding, he was happy enough. So moving on to Moto 2, he got himself a bit of a better start, and he really went for it then, and he put on some ride. He battled with Caroli early, they passed and repassed each other. He pulled away from Jeffrey Hurlings, and he set his sights on Robin Fevre, and what a battle they had the last couple of laps, with Geiser getting the edge and a big win.
Yeah, I'm really glad to see that Geiser's taking that approach. Everyone knows the last few seasons he's had some very nasty big crashes, and for some of them he's been very lucky to walk away. And I think that's what he needs to do, is just take a 3rd or a 4th instead of trying to push for the win every race and throw it down the road. So I was glad to see him take that approach in race 1. And yeah, in race 2, unbelievable battle between him and Fevre. What a race. Absolutely fantastic. The last lap was insane. I honestly thought when Fevre passed Geiser back, he had done it. But there's just no shaking Geiser off at the minute when he sets his sights on the win. He's just got that wee bit extra that maybe the others don't currently have. But these are kind of Geiser tracks, so we shouldn't be surprised to see him win in Russia and finishing 2nd in Mallory Basin. But it's more the way he's doing it, which is impressive. He looks in control at the minute, and that Honda is set up very, very well. So they've got the complete package at the minute, and he's got the red plate. I think he'll have the red plate for a while longer anyway. The way he's riding it currently, it's very, very impressive.
And you were down in pit lane with the Honda guys. Can you just give us a little insight into their emotions during that race?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I was in pit lane beside Tim Geiser's girlfriend and the Honda PR guy, Bulmer, and it was fantastic. They were going crazy, and I was going crazy with them. It was just really good. The pure emotion. When you're at the race, you realise how much it means to these guys and what they're working for, and it was unbelievable just to stand there with them and follow the race with them. It was fantastic. Really, really enjoyed it. Best race I've seen live in a long time. It had everything really, and that last lap made it even extra special.
As you said, the money these teams are putting in just to the presentation in the pits with the trucks and obviously the mechanics and all the work they do. There's so many people invested, and with Mitch Evans currently injured, everything's on Tim Geiser's shoulders. Yes, he's the world champion, and yes, he knows how to deal with pressure, but he's the only guy riding for HRC Honda in the 450 class right now. Every single person in that tent is working for him, and any disappointment or any problems that he has in terms of his riding or performance, everyone else feels. So for him to just carry that team on his shoulders and keep producing, it means so much to him, but it means so much to everyone that's putting all that effort in.
Exactly that. You don't realise until you go to a GP just how much pressure these riders are under to perform, and you don't get away with bad results anymore. If you've one bad year, you're going to be out of the team. Obviously, Geisers and the elite talents are slightly different, but just in general, it's unbelievable the amount of effort that goes into it from the riders, the hospitality, everyone involved in the team. And yeah, Geisers, he's used to it now. He's just got everything covered. And last winter, he made the last big step with the sand riding. So now heading into the sand GPs after Italy, he's going to be knocking on the door there as well, which makes him even more dangerous in the title threat. So these guys can't afford to let him get ahead too much.
Exactly. And the thing he said to me, which I thought was very impressive, and kind of shows the humility of Tim Geiger, but also the single-minded determination that he has to win that you can see on the track, especially that second moto there. He said, even if you're a world champion, you can still improve yourself. You can get better. And that attitude, I think, really sums him up. He's never content, but he's never big-headed. He always thinks he can get better. And while he's never intimidated by anyone like Hurlings or a Caroli, and he believes in himself, he's still looking for these wee extra bits. He never thinks he's the man. In a way, he's always looking for where can I get better over the winter? I want to improve on my weaknesses. And that attitude, I think, is pretty impressive for someone who's still actually quite young, but he's had so much success. He's a 4-time world champion, and he still wants more.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. That's the attitude every champion needs to have. If you think that you're the best you can be, you're maybe going to drop the ball and get a little bit lazy, but you always need to strive to improve. At the end of the day, until you've got 100 GP wins, and that's when you can maybe rest in your laurels a bit. But, he's still young. He's still got lots to race for, and he's still got plenty to go for the rest of his career. So why not always try to get better? Why not? He's still young. Got stuff to work on, like everyone. And whilst he's at the very top right now, until you're going 1-1 every week and having the unbelievable season, which probably won't happen anymore because the level's incredible. So whilst he always needs to strive to be better, he also needs to be sensible and take the right approach when it matters. So, for example, the first moto at Matterley Basin probably could have went quicker there and took more risks. But he seen that the track was quite flat. Everyone was going the same speed, so he played it safe. And it ended up being the right decision because a 4-1 meant he got second overall on the day and he gained points on Hurlings, Fevre, Prado, etc.
Talking of looking to improve, Jeffrey Hurlings, he's been very steady, which usually you're blown away by his speed and his willingness to risk everything for a win. But this year he's had to deal with the fact that he isn't the fastest. And speaking to him after, he seems okay with that. But for now, he's very honest. He said he isn't fast enough. For now, I am too slow, but I need to improve, he admitted. And I think he knows where he wants to be and he believes he can get there, but he knows he still has a wee bit of extra pace to find to run with Geiger and Tony Caroli. But he believes he can do it. He's just having to be patient at the minute. But the fact he is being patient, when those three guys were pulled away from him in that second moto, he didn't go mad. He just accepted it, took the fourth, got on the podium again, and he's still very much in contention with Tim Geiger for this championship without being at his best. And when Jeffrey's at his best, everyone else might have to step up.
Exactly that. 3 or 4 years ago, if Hurling started a season like this and he was 80% fit, he would probably be having sleepless nights right now because this guy's a winner and he wants to win at all costs. But it's nice to see him take the sensible option, get himself into a nice position. At the end of the day, he's second in the championship. It's not the vintage Jeffrey Hurlings we know, but in terms of the championship chase, he's in quite a nice position. Okay, Geiger's ahead, but there's a long way to go. I feel like after Italy is probably when Hurlings will be expected to win because we've got a few sand races coming up. So those are the ones where he might put a wee bit more pressure on himself and maybe take a few more of the risks that he hasn't took so far because he's felt he hasn't really needed to, and he's been right not to do that. But it's definitely going to be interesting after Italy to see how the sand races go. Can't wait for those ones. Could be epic.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the litmus test for where Jeffrey Hurlings is, especially when we get to Oss, his home Grand Prix in the sand. I think there at that point, because he's obviously a few points behind Tim Geiger in the championship anyway, so at that point, that's when he's going to have to start putting his authority on this class and starting to get race wins to show that he can get back to where he was and he can up the pace to what Geiger and Caroli are at the minute. It's going to come down to he's going to have to start winning there in order for everyone to think Jeffrey Hurlings can come back to the level he was at before all these injuries. But I think it should also be said that this guy was lying with a broken neck and temporarily paralysed just a few months ago. he has enough money that he didn't need to come back. He's had enough injuries that most riders probably wouldn't come back with what everything he's been through. He's a 4-time world champion, but he's come back for more. He's very mentally strong, and I don't mean just in his determination to win, but in his ability to put injuries behind him. And now he seems to have maybe gone back a wee bit on the risk, which is understandable, but it might play into his favour in the long run, being there every weekend. And because he sets such a high mark, people are maybe looking at it going, "Oh, Jeffrey Hurlings, he's lost it. He isn't the same." But the guy's been on the podium twice, so if he feels he's around 80% and he's still getting on the podium and he's the closest guy in points to Tim Geiser, it shows you just how good the guy is, because he's not at 100% yet, and he's still Geiser's closest rival in the championship.
Exactly that. The injuries have been horrific for Jeffrey, but I feel like as horrific as they are, he's now in a better place, having suffered from the injuries and going through tough times. Now he can accept the second, third, or fourth, which maybe in the past he couldn't accept, and that's maybe what's led to the injuries. So now he's like second moto in Matterley. He got into fourth and he just brought it home for fourth. Absolutely the right thing to do. He was too far behind the front three, and he would have had to take unbelievable, like vintage Jeffrey Hurlings might have been able to come up and win that, but he would have had to take a lot of risk, and with those risks comes crashes, and crashes at that speed usually don't end too well, especially for Jeffrey Hurlings. So far, I think he's playing the perfect game, positioning himself in this championship. It's going to, and like I said, it's going to be interesting when it hits the sand. If he happens to lose a sand GP, that could be the turning point where he's not going to rest on his laurels and he might just go out 100%. So it'll be interesting to see what happens as the season develops.
Yeah, and something else interesting he talked about was whenever he was winning pretty much every race he entered in 2018 and dominating, he was training via Alden Becker's handbook, essentially, having spent some time over there at the end of the 2017 season. He was doing everything Alden had the guys in America doing. But at the minute, he says he's not doing it quite as strict as that, because that would sort of taken away the enjoyment, and the intensity of doing it like that would leave him with a shorter career. And he's trying to find the balance of still training hard, still taking the best bits of Alden Becker, but also being able to enjoy some food that he likes that isn't necessarily healthy, like a candy bar or whatever, and being able to have that wee bit of balance in his life so he can ride for a few more years. And he seems to have found that, at least off the bike. He still obviously wants to be a wee bit quicker on the track, but no doubt Tony Crowley has proven to be a bit of an inspiration for him, because Crowley throughout the years has always been known to do his training, take everything seriously, but also be able to switch off and have a wee bit of fun and eat a wee bit of food that maybe you shouldn't eat, but do everything in moderation. And that's also maybe what's allowed him to enjoy each season and to have such a long career and remain motivated, because he has that wee break mentally that Jeffrey has maybe never had, because he's been so intent on winning and smashing everybody on track that he hasn't quite got the balance. But it looks like now he's been working hard to find that balance, and perhaps it might allow the fans and everyone to be able to see Jeffrey Hurlings line up for a few more years than what we might have done a couple of years ago.
Yeah, exactly that. I don't think it was just 2018 where he was working very intense. I think it was pretty much the whole way through his MX2 career. He's put a lot of work in throughout the years and a lot of bike time, and I was always worried that might lead to burnout. So I'm glad to see that he's went back a little. Like, he doesn't. The thing with Jeffrey is when he was in MX2 and waxing the field by like a minute, he was still riding maybe 4 times a week if he could. When there was he didn't have to ride 4 times a week. 2 or 3 would have done it. So I hope he goes down that approach and keeps. Well, it sounds like he is going down that route, and I hope he keeps that approach up, because otherwise, it's the longevity will be very hard for him. And so I do hope that he keeps finding that balance, and probably the injuries have helped. He probably knows now there is more to life than motocross, and when he does stop racing eventually, you know, he might want that to come as soon as when he was an MX2, whenever he was just thinking about winning every weekend and smashing them by a minute. So it's nice to see he's got that bit of balance now and fingers crossed we can see him in the paddock for a few more seasons. It'd be great.
Yeah, I think everybody would like that. You don't want to lose a rider due to burnout or injuries. You want them to be able to have a long career and fulfill their potential each year. A guy that's filling his potential this year is Romain Febvre. He's looked superb, and I feel he's maybe lost a few points here and there. That second moto in Russia, the first moto in Great Britain, he didn't get the best of starts. It took him a while to get past Alex Lupino, but my goodness, he got a very, very rare hole shot in the second moto and was 3/4 of a lap away from winning. But regardless, first or second, he was setting the pace, and he was giving Tim Geiser everything he could handle. Febvre looks great on the Kawasaki this year. He's third in points. He's 20 points behind Geiser. He's very much in this title championship, and if he's not always been known for his starts, if he got the whole shot there, so hopefully that's a sign his starts can be in around the top 5, and he can give himself a chance at the championship this year.
Exactly that. He's going to need starts like he got in the second moto at Mallory Basin, and it's pretty obvious he's not used to leading in the first lap, because in the first lap the KTM boys flew past him, so he's probably not used to that intensity of the first lap. So it was great that he actually got a great start. I couldn't believe it myself. It was fantastic to see him up there from the very first lap, because usually Febvre's, if something happens, he's usually not far off the chaos. So definitely that's an area that's always been sort of his weak link, getting out of the gate, and and I feel like he's always had this sort of speed, but the first few laps he's not very good at positioning himself in the race. So it was great. That was a good that could turn out to be a turning point. Who knows? Fingers crossed. Maybe they changed something in the bike to help him get out of the start, and it done the trick, because if he can be in the top 3 every moto out of the gate, he definitely has the speed to win races and win GPs and be a championship threat, in my opinion.
And the thing I liked about it was Febvre went back at Geiser. That determination we've seen in his prime years when he was world champion with Yamaha, that never give up, fight to the end. And he done that in the second moto there. Not many people have been able to battle with Geiser for a win this year, and he wasn't giving in without a fight. He looks like he wants it very bad this year, and crucially he has a bike he looks like he trusts. It doesn't look like there's any doubt with the bike. He looks very, 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 very comfortable and confident on it. So hopefully Romain Febvre can maintain this form, keep getting the starts, and we can add another elite level guy into this mix with Caroli, Geiser, and Herlings and Prado. Talking of Jorge Prado, he had a bit of a mixture of a day. The first moto he was very good. He got the start. Caroli passed him, but he stayed strong to get second. A bit of a bounce back from Russia. But that last moto was very unlike Jorge. He got the start. He was up there at the front, but he dropped back, and that's not something we're used to seeing. He did say in the press release he struggled to find a feeling with the track, and with the rain there, it did make it a bit more slick. According to a lot of riders, it was difficult to try and get your feeling, get your flow. But Prado said he just couldn't find it throughout the race, and he admitted he just wasn't quick enough in that second moto. So something to work on there. But he was still 5th overall. He showed the first moto he can run the pace when he's feeling good and everything's going okay. But there's still a wee bit extra there, I think, we can expect from Jorge Prado as the season goes on. He's not quite at his full potential, I don't think, just yet.
Exactly that. His performance at Mallory Basin pretty much reminded me of Russia. One good moto and one, for his standards, you would say one bad moto, which is uncharacteristic for Prado, because we've always known him to be consistent, because he does get such good starts to start with, and then he's good enough to run the pace at the front usually. So I was actually surprised to see him drop back in that second moto. It's not like him at all, but I mean, he's still 5th overall in the championship, so we don't need to panic too much, and he certainly won't be panicking. I just feel like maybe too much pressure on his shoulders coming into the season, but I think he'll be able to handle it, and he'll turn it around sooner rather than later, because he's got too much talent, and with his good starts, he's going to be able to follow the guys in front of him with the intensity, and he's good enough to at least run with them. If not, he's good enough to battle for race wins on his day.
Yeah, I think whenever he's on full form, and he maybe gets a first race win and gets everything dialed into his liking again, he's going to be another one that's going to have Crowley and Geyser and Hurlings having their hands full with. But another guy who's been really, really impressive, and maybe in some ways the most impressive this season, is Paul Jonas. He backed up his speed in Russia at the British GP, 2 6th places, but he was running with the top guys. His speed was there all weekend and qualifying in both motos. Bad start, good start. He looks like he's going to be a consistent threat this year with those against those elite guys. And after his injury last year, and also I don't feel he's always had the full respect he deserves. Even though he is a former MX2 world champion, he's always been a wee bit in the shadows. And to come back from a very serious injury last year, new team, new people to understand how he works and how they work, to come straight out the first 2 rounds of the season and be running in that sort of elite group, that sort of top 5 pace, is very, very impressive for me. And he's really showing just what a talent he is.
Yeah, before Russia, he hadn't rode a GP for about a year and 4 months, I think it was. And coming into the season, he decided not to do any pre-season races. So I expected him to start the season slowly, and he's absolutely been flying, like you said. To go 6-6 from bad starts, having the pass guys come up through a stack field, very, very impressive. 8th in the championship, very, very solid. And again, those kind of tracks.
That's with the DNF as well.
Necessarily say, yeah, and you wouldn't, yeah, exactly. And those kind of tracks, you wouldn't say are PJ's strongest, especially Russia. It was very slick and hard pack. And even though he's a good all round rider, if there was one area he would say he's not great at, like amazing at, is when it gets slick. So he started the season really well. And I actually interviewed him after, and he said at the end of last year nobody wanted him, so he was happy Gascas picked up the phone. I would love to know what some of these team managers think. Not to want PJ's fantastic talent.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I'm not sure why, but he always seems to be under the radar, and he's never at the top of people's list of a guy to watch. But his talent is absolutely fantastic, and we're showing also his determination to come back from these injuries and perhaps even prove people wrong. I'm wondering too if how much he enjoyed that pass on Prado in the second moto. That was quite a tight fight for the World Championship one year, and it got pretty close at times. So a wee bit of personal redemption there maybe for Paul Jonas.
Yeah, there was definitely a strong rivalry between them. I'll never forget the collision they had in Turkey, I think it was. That was intense, and yeah, I'm sure I would have enjoyed that for sure. Yeah, good day for PJ, and it'll be interesting to see what he can do in the stand, because that's his strongest point in my opinion. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the podium soon.
Another guy who was quietly impressive, I thought, again after a tough start to the season in Russia, was Glenn Coldenhoff. He showed he has the pace. It's maybe not perfect for the entire 30 minutes, but he was back up at the front. He got a look at those guys. And I thought he was pretty decent. He'll obviously want a wee bit more as the season goes on, but in terms of where he had to come from Russia to come back, get decent starts, not too bad, and run up towards the front with the big guys again, was kind of where you would expect Glenn to be. And now he's on the Yamaha. He was looking comfortable yesterday, so hopefully things can start to progress from there for Glenn Coldenhoff.
Yeah, I think Factory Yamaha will be relieved after a start to the season in Russia that they would not have been happy with at all. So to have 3 riders in the top 10 with Sir 7th, Coldenhoff 8th, and Watson 9th is definitely a step in the right direction. And to touch on Coldenhoff, first moto, very impressive, 5th, and the speed was very, very fast at the front. And a few guys passed him, and I thought he might drop back, but he actually hung on really well. He showed good determination to hang on, and 5th was good, and to follow that up with a 9th for 8th overall is definitely a step in the right direction. And I feel like as he gels more and more with the bike, he should continue to improve as the season goes on.
I think another guy we'll have to give a shout out to is Alessandro Lupino. Once again, fast in qualifying. He had a good first moto ride, top 10 as well. He was a wee bit off. I don't think his riding was off as such, but he didn't get the start in the second moto, and he was telling us before in the morning that you do have to get the start. Sort of his position in the pack, if you don't get the start, it's very hard to come through. But again, another strong ride for him. He's looking, and he admitted he just feels very, very comfortable on that KTM, and he has done all year. A top 10 for Alessandro Lupino, another impressive day, and he's loving life at the minute.
Yeah, he's right about one thing. You definitely need to start an MXGP. At times I was watching in and around 20th, and it's just chaos. It's like a war zone. Just riders going everywhere, battling for their positions, and it's crazy. So he's definitely right about that. If you get a bad start in MXGP, it's very, very difficult to move your way up through the field because it's so stacked full of talent, and nobody will give you an inch. I feel like actually there's more respect maybe at the front. They'll race you a bit cleaner. At the back, it's just frantic, or even in the mid pack. So yeah, he's right about getting starts, and yeah, 10th overall. I would say it was a solid day for Lupino. He's probably a wee bit disappointed after such a strong start to the season, actually. But yeah, it's still a solid day for him, and 7th in the championship after 2 rounds. I'm sure he would have took that coming into the season.
Definitely, he's been riding very, very well this year. I'm pretty sure, as you said, that the first 2 performances of the year, he would have bitten your hand off for that back in January when he was just getting things sorted with the KTM. Another guy who was very good was Ben Watson. He had a very tough time in Russia. He said he just couldn't gel with the track at all, and wasn't the day he was hoping for. Again, qualifying wasn't exactly what he wanted. I think he was 22nd, but Ben regrouped, which I feel showed pretty impressive mental strength. He hung on to how well he's been riding coming into the GPs. He got decent starts, not amazing, but decent starts. He was battling in a pretty crazy mid pack at the sort of lower reaches of the top 10. And he battled strong there. Both motos didn't give in, fought hard, kept his position, tried to really go for the guys in front of him. Two tough races, but he was rewarded with the 9th overall on his first top 10 in MXGP. And that's, for me, is the toughest class in motorcycle racing in the world. And he's acquitted himself well. Confidence booster, no doubt. But he looked comfortable. He didn't look on the edge, running the pace. And that'll no doubt help him going forward now, because Russia wasn't exactly the way you want to start your MXGP debut season on a factory Yamaha. And now he's redeemed himself, and he's shown where he can be in this class. And possibly he'll get even better.
Absolutely, Russia was a disaster as far as debuts goes, and it was probably a bit of an eye-opener for him about how to ride a slick, technical hardpack track. So to go from outside the top 20 to 9th in the space of a week is pretty good. I'm sure he would have snapped your hand off at that, and I'm sure he really enjoyed racing his home GP with his home crowd, getting behind him. It was great to see the fans there, and they were getting behind all the British riders. And I feel like in the second moto, more so than the first moto, with the rain, the track got slick, and their sort of conditions Watson doesn't really favour. So to finish 10th and actually better his Moto 1 result was very impressive, I thought. So it's a step in the right direction, and I think that's the goal for Watson this year, to get as many top 10 overall results as possible in his rookie season. If he can continue those sort of results, it'll be a strong championship for him.
I think too on Ben Watson, he's a very nice guy, very calm, and sometimes you wonder, has he enough almost arrogance to demand positions and really feel that he belongs there. But the last 12 months, I wouldn't say arrogance, but I feel he has a way of that inner confidence that he knows he can do it now. And that seems to have held him in good stead through that wee blip in Russia. He's come out the other side, and he's looking good again, and hopefully it can be onwards and upwards from here for Ben Watson. Another guy I think we should mention, staying with the British theme, is Adam Sterry. He was very, very good. He hasn't always had the starts or the luck in the British Championship, but in the World Championship so far, he's been strong. And again, two solid motos at his home round in the World Championship. Points both times out. 17th overall, and you have to remember that this class is so stacked. So 17th overall is very, very good for Adam. Battling tooth and nail both motos. Nothing comes easy in this class, and I thought he rode very, very well.
He did indeed, and we'll have to remember he hasn't got a factory bike. So to go 18-15, get points in both motos in an absolutely stacked field, I think that's a really good step forward for Adam, and he should take confidence from that. He battled with some good guys all weekend, really, and guys like Flandern and Strybus and Tonus, they're all fast guys, and it's not easy. It's really not easy. So it's just important for him to learn as much as he can throughout this season and continue to improve. He's actually impressed me more in the GPs than he has at the British Championship. So he should be happy with how he's performing in the GPs so far. And the goal should just be to keep going this way. At Mallory, he definitely looked a lot looser on the bike than some of the other races. He looked to ride with a bit more freedom, and he looked as if he was enjoying it out there as well, which can make a difference sometimes.
Yeah, he looks, the way he was riding there, he looks like he belongs in the points. Like he believes he belongs in the points. He, as you say, he looked pretty relaxed, even though the battles were intense all around him, and guys back and forward and on a track that was pretty difficult to pass as well. But he was there, lap in, lap out, right and competitive with some very, very fast company, and he looked pretty at ease doing it. Another guy, Sean Simpson, he hasn't had the best start to the season, up and down, crash here, win here in the British Championship, but he wasn't too happy with the track. Again, this flattening of the track and not ripping it, the slick surface, the fast surface, in time practice, Sean wasn't too happy, said he didn't enjoy it, and he was fairly well down the order in qualifying, but when it came to race time, he was competitive inside the points. A good first moto, unfortunately didn't get any points second moto, but Sean's pace in the races was a big improvement from qualifying, and he was up in and around with Sterry there that first moto, and I thought a pretty good bounce back from qualifying for Sean Simpson. He got it together for the races when he needed to.
Yeah, Sean started the season very slowly, I thought, but as each race passes, he continues to get better and better, I feel. And yeah, I don't think that track would have suited him at all, to be honest. It was bit too fast for Sean's type of going. So I think it was a solid weekend, and he should be happy enough and continue and just hope to keep improving. We've got a few tracks after Italy coming up that should suit him down to a T. So there's no reason why I can't run in the top 15 in the sand, especially at least top 15.
I just want to say also a well done to Arnaud Tonis, who rode very well, especially that first moto. I think 10th he ended up, but he set a strong pace throughout the 30 minutes. Tonis has a great style, as everyone knows, but results aren't always there for him. He can be hit and miss, and I'm not really sure why. Sometimes just the luck doesn't go his way. Other times he ends up in bad starts, or just something can just go wrong. But he's off the factory team. He's on the Hostetler Swiss team now, but he showed that when he can get out of the gate, he can still run the pace. Some guys may have forgot about him after last season, but he showed there that first motor that he still has the stuff to get in amongst the top 10. As did Kevin Strybus, 14th overall, always again and around battling for that just outside the top 10 positions. I remember whenever he was battling James Stewart on, I think it was 85s at Geldorf to be World Youth Champion. So Strybus has plenty of experience. He was a star in the early 2000s, the next big thing for Belgium. So he's been around a long time, but the talent's still there for Kevin Strybus. And in fact, the whole Gavin van Venrooy Yamaha team have been very good at the start of this season. Colin Villanderen as well, strong rides in the pack, and Brent van Donnick. His results do not in any way reflect the speed he had at the weekend. He had a crash as well, but he's riding very well. Unfortunately, 20th overall isn't the result that reflects that.
Yeah, well, to start with Tonus, a bit inconsistent, which is sort of Arnold Tonus down to a T at the moment. He might have one good moto and then followed up with a not so good moto. So 15th overall is probably about right. But 12th in the championship after 2 rounds, that's pretty good and an absolutely stacked field. So feel like he should be happy with the start of his season. And on the Gavin van Venrooy Yamaha team, absolutely. I feel like all 3 of those riders have the potential to run in the top 10. Strybus, who has the nickname The Kid, I don't know if we can still call him that or not, but why not? He really impressed me, actually. His starts were really, really bad, but on a track that was hard to overtake on, especially in the first moto, because a lot of the guys are running the same speed. To come back up to 12th after a mediocre start was very impressive, actually. He really did impress me. And Flandern, he had a disaster, worst possible start in the first moto, think he collided with Geyser, so he was dead last, because he had to pick himself up from the deck. So to get from dead, that's the worst possible start in that class. So you may as well say it's a write-off, because the field is so stacked. Just to come back into the points is difficult. So he couldn't really done much more than 17th. The second moto, he's knocking on the door for the top 10, 11th. He'll not be content until he can get in that top 10, but I feel like he should be happy with his speed, and 13th overall in the championship in this stacked field is nothing to be snuffed at, so he should be happy enough. Brent Van Donick, it was so nearly a fantastic weekend. Absolutely, he was really, really fast, and just like Russia, he doesn't have a big lot to show for it. He only managed an 18th in race 2 for 20th overall, but he had goggle issues all weekend in both motos, I think. So he had vision issues, but in the second moto, he was very, very comfortable running between 7th and 9th. If only he can get the results. But the hardest thing is to have the speed, and he has the speed covered. So I feel like the results are only a matter of time.
And Jeremy Van Horbeck has the speed, although his starts probably weren't where he wanted to. He always seemed to be mired in the pack, but 11th overall, passing guys that second moto, pretty good result. The top 10 in that second moto. Jeremy Van Horbeck on the bike are showing that each weekend they look like they're going to be a pretty solid combination.
Absolutely, that second moto was very, very impressive on the beta. A really good package there, it looks like. He was catching Prado. He was coming in on Prado on his second GP with the team, so I think he would have snapped your hand off for that one, to catch a factory KTM. So very good speed, and I feel like Van Horbeek's very motivated this year, because he's got a chance to be a factory rider again, and it's nice to see. It's nice to see a new manufacturer in the paddock as well. And 11th in the championship, if he can get in the top 10 in the championship, which is very possible because he's a consistent rider, then that would be a really good season. Really good season.
And just also, I think Brand Bogers deserves a bit of a shout out. Good, solid Grand Prix for him. 16th overall. Again, always in the mix. I know we keep saying it, but this class is so deep. You're battling with good guys, whether you're 5th or 15th. It's just not easy. On a Matterley Basin, it was like a freight train of just one guy with another guy right on him as he's trying to get hounded by another guy. He's looking for a pass, and it's really not easy. They're just coming flying past you, and they're all just going as hard as they can, looking for wee gaps to try and take advantage of the rider in front of them. So they're always under pressure for feels like the entire moto in that mid pack. So very impressive, very good, solid day for Brian Bogers and the gas. I want to talk about Henry Jacobi. That crash was pretty sensational. I looked up and there he was mid-air with the bike going sideways, him in the air alongside all the other guys actually on their machines. He landed and the yellow flags went out and he crawled off to the side, and I wasn't expecting to see him race again yesterday, but back he came. He's a tough guy, and he managed to get points despite feeling understandably second hand in that second moto. Yeah,
just to start with, from Bodgers, it's I feel like he's a rider that has a lot of potential. So I was pleased to see the Standing Construct Factory Gas team step in and sign him. Now, unfortunately, he hasn't had an ideal preparation coming into the season, and he's still probably nowhere near 100% fit. And racing this class, it's not easy. 100% fit, never mind being less than that. So 16th overall is something. It's a starting point, and he should continue to get better. But I feel like once he's fully up to speed, he definitely has the speed to run the top 10, I feel. And yeah, just on Henry Jacobi, what a warrior. He gets the Balls of Steel award for this weekend after that mad, crazy crash. Most riders wouldn't have even raced the second moto, so to actually race Moto 2 in pain and finish 14th, can only take my hat off to the guy. Respect there. Very, very good. First points of the season as well, I think. So there you go.
What does that award look like exactly?
I'll leave that to your imagination.
All right, thanks. Arminas Jasikotis, he didn't get any points, but it was just great to see the guy back on the track. He looked pretty decent out there for everything he's been through. The style, the technique, everything was there. But it's obviously just gonna take him a wee bit of time to come back to his old level. At the time he crashed, he was starting to establish himself as one of the few guys that could run the raw pace of Geyser, Hurlings, Crowley and Prado. So he has still a long way to go to rediscover that form, but it's just nice to see him back after everything he's been through. And even the pace he was running, you know, at the time, I'm not sure how many people would ever thought he'd even be as fast as he is right now. So just a shout out to Arminas Jassikonis and congratulations on even getting back to where he is, because it hasn't been an easy few months for him, the family or the team. I think we should move on to MX2 now. And that was a dramatic day that started off with a dramatic morning. Tom Vial only did a few laps cruising in free practice, and then he was gone. Joel Smets was running back to the pits, and Tom Vial was out for the day thanks to a hand injury sustained in a collision during the week with Rowan van de Moestijk. And suddenly the MX2 World Championship was blown wide open, and Maxime Renault came through, won the race. Very, very impressive. First moto win, controlled everything. Looked like he was quite happy to be the guy winning and leading. It didn't look like pressure phased him at all. Second moto, he came through. At one point, he didn't have the greatest start, and it looked a wee bit iffy that he was gonna get the overall. But the second half of the race, he picked up the speed, did what he had to do, took second place, and won the overall. Thoughts on him? I thought he really stepped up whenever everybody was wondering who was going to be the next guy after Tom Vial's absence.
Yeah, well, just to start off on what you were saying there, Tom Vial, it's unbelievable. 1 minute you can be riding around the track, and a couple of minutes later, that can be it. You can be down in a heap, and he tried the race, free practice, then he lasted a lap or 2 laps at most, and he called it a day. So it's going to be very interesting for this weekend how his hand feels. If you're a betting man, you would probably say it's going to be a struggle this weekend for him, even to race. If he can race, you would like to think hopefully he can get in the top 10 so it doesn't completely ruin his championship hopes, because it's never nice to see a rider lose a series due to a freak accident like that.
I think the plan is that he is going to try and race. I think the hand isn't broke, so the plan was to give it a few days rest, and fingers crossed he will be able to race and at least put in some type of performance in Italy. But as you say, after Russia, it looked like nothing could stop him. But whenever you have a freak crash like that, and I think everyone's seen how bent up the bike was when you're getting run into, it's pure bad luck, and possibly the only thing that was going to take away Vial's momentum this year. But it's just, as I say, it's opened the door for so many guys. You know, I think they can win races and have a big shot at this title.
Exactly, a complete freak incident, and I feel sorry for Rowan van de Moestijk being involved in that as well. But just one of those things.
Yeah, I must say it wasn't done on purpose.
Very low.
Van de Moestijk was doing a practice starting. He got the balance in the rut wrong, but careered into Tom Vial, who was doing laps on the track. So a freak accident, but unfortunately Tom Vial came out worse, although by all accounts he could have actually been badly injured, and this chance of a world title could have been totally over. So in one way, missing this round, if that's all he misses, he still has the chance of the title, and that's something perhaps to actually be thankful for.
Exactly that. And just to touch on Maxime Renault, he was fantastic at the weekend. I mean, excluding Tom Vial, Gertz and Renault and I think just those two are the only two guys to have a MX2 GP overall win to their name. So you could tell Renault he looked at ease, and he looked at total control at the front in the first moto. Very, very good performance. And in the second moto, I think he could have, if he wanted to, I think he had the speed to go 1-1. But once he got into second, I think he just done what he had to do to not do any damage to the overall GP victory that he had in the bag. So very, very impressed with him. And second in the championship now, I feel like he could be the one to maybe build up the most momentum, because he's got the experience of winning now. Okay, it's only 2 Grand Prix victories, but he looks in control, and he looks like he's destined to win plenty more throughout his career.
Now, the guy with the red plate isn't actually Maxime Renault. He's 5 points behind championship leader Ruben Fernandez, who had another strong day. That first moto, yet again, his aggressiveness, his never say die attitude come out with that last turn pass on Matthias Busrame, and it even got close after the finish line. I'm not sure how happy Busrame was with that, but Fernandez this season has showed his intent. He's fearless, he's ruthless, he wants to win, and he wants to win bad. And with Vial having his problem there, it's opened the door, and Fernandez now is the championship leader. Great for him. I think he's been possibly the most improved rider this year, this coming into this season. He's been absolutely fantastic the first four motos of the season, and I think we're going to have to take him seriously now as a front runner week in, week out. But for Honda as well, I think it's nice for them to have a red plate. MX2 hasn't always been their strongest category, especially since Tim Geiser has left. So Fernandez, great signing. Fernandez obviously gelling with the bike, so shout out to Olivier Lancelot, the 114 Honda team. Everything's going very, very well for him. Of course, he did have that slip off in the second moto, but he can sort of afford that. As I say, he's still leading the championship of 5 points. It did cost him the chance at the overall win, but I'm sure he'll take the red plate. He remounted, I think, 7th he came back to, so damage limitation, not too bad for Ruben Fernandez. Goes into Italy, red plate holder on the Honda, and a guy everyone's going to have to take seriously for the rest of this championship, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. After the start of the season, he's shown he's the real deal at the minute, and absolutely, it's fantastic to see a Honda at the front. That's exactly what MX2 needs. It's good to see different manufacturers up there battling at the front, and now we've got Honda added to the likes of KTM, Husqvarna, and Kawasaki, who could all have a bike that could potentially win a GP on any given day. So that's exactly what we needed. And Fernandez he's very, very aggressive. He's always a good watch, and he's not scared to throw it down the inside of somebody. That's for sure. If he'll do whatever it takes to win at any cost, really. If it's on the line, or in this case to get a podium. His start in the second moto wasn't that great, so he's shown now that he can charge through a field as well. So it's definitely one to watch out for, and you definitely won't miss him on the track with that bright yellow gear as well either.
No, you needed sunglasses on Sunday, even though it was cloudy, just to watch Ruben Fernandez ride. Also, I think with him, he's that's two riders. He's just put pretty hard passes on up the inside. He put Hoffer down. He moved Busrame out of the road nearly. So the other guys are going to start to know that you can't give that guy an inch up the inside. You're going to have to shut the door going into the corner, because Fernandez isn't scared to make contact with you. Matthias Busrame, it was a day of what could have been for the Frenchman. He looked like he had second until Fernandez made that move in the opening moto, and then for a while he was looking odds on to win the overall in race 2 until he fell off, and that really disrupted his momentum. Okay, he came back and he was still riding pretty strong, but whenever you throw away an overall win, it's pretty hard to take. However, that aside, he's still in the championship. He's also 74 points alongside Maxime Renault, 5 points off Fernandez, and all to play for Busrame still, despite the couple of frustrating moments in 2 motos at Matterley Basin.
Yeah, to throw away the GP win is one thing, but not to even getting the podium for the speed he has. I would say he would probably be frustrated at that. I definitely feel like he had the speed for the podium, but he just missed out with a 4th overall. But I mean, if he's 3rd in the championship, I think if you'd have told him that before the first round, that he'd be 3rd and so close to the red plate, I think he'd have bit your hand off. And some more hard pack coming this weekend, so he's looking really, really strong in hard pack, which isn't that much of a surprise. So again, he should be battling for another podium this weekend, and who knows if he can get a win? Who knows? It could be a domino effect.
Mario Guadagnini, what a ride in that second moto. I wouldn't say he came from nowhere, but he was a strong ride in the first one, 4th. But I'm not sure anyone expected him to get the lead and just control the entire race the way he did. Tom Vial out, the reigning world champion, did not start. Yet KTM still produce a moto winner, and it's the rookie EMX2 again showing his strength. Matteo Guadagnini comes through, delivers for KTM, wins his first ever moto. What a day for the Italian.
Yeah, he was just flawless in that second moto, wasn't he? I don't think too many people would have predicted that he'd stay at the front the whole race and bring it home quite comfortably in the end, but that's exactly what he done. He was EMX 250 rider last year, and it's only his third ever GP because he done a wild card last year, and only his second GP on the factory KTM, and he looks at home already. He was fantastic, and even though he was fourth in the first moto, he could have quite easily been a second. There wasn't much in it between them. So very, very good weekend, second overall. He could be the danger man to watch out for because he's similar to Fernandez in terms of aggression. So he'll also not be scared to throw it down the inside of you if required.
I think that was part of how impressive he was. He is known for aggression. He can have wild moments and the odd big crash, but he actually looked pretty composed out front. Now, for your leading your first World Championship race, clock ticking down, approaching your first World Championship moto win, that's bound to get the nerves going, and you're bound to start perhaps overthinking and not just flowing how you would like to in practice. But he did. He just flowed. He didn't look back. He looked calm and composed, like an experienced veteran. And I think that composure was almost as impressive as the race win in itself. That should be a big confidence booster for him going forward, and just a flat out brilliant ride from Guadagnini.
Exactly that. I was waiting for him to get nervous actually and to drop back a little bit, but never did he show signs of it. So that'll stand him in good stead for the future. He knows what it's like to win a moto now, so the next thing he needs to do is win an overall.
And
Who knows when it'll happen, but
you spoke to him after. What was his thoughts, and how did you feel he came across to you?
Yeah, he was very focused. He said he didn't think about the win, and he was so focused with how he was riding, doing the right things on the bike, and he really enjoyed the track. So he was just having fun and tried to control the lead, and really a full package, really performance in terms of how to win a moto for your first attempt. He was in the position and he made no mistakes. He looked completely at ease, and you could tell he was focused because it was like clockwork. He was brilliant, hitting all his lines exactly how he'd hit them, and very, very impressive. He's definitely a danger man as this championship goes on. He could be a threat because he's certainly got the talent, and working with Claudio Ricciardi and having Prado and Crowley to learn from will only stand them in good stead for the future. They're both probably both the most technically gifted riders in the paddock. So if he can take bits from their riding onto his, it can definitely make him a complete rider for the future.
And Ronnie Hoffer, again, tough first moto. He crashed. I think the electric start, the cable broke or something tagged, and he couldn't get the bike going for a long time. So he was good half a lap behind everyone. So no points that moto. But second moto, he showed exactly what he can do. Ran second for a long time, got passed by Renault, then caught Renault back up, passed him back, although Renault got him again. But it shows the mentality of Hoffer. He isn't intimidated by people. He hasn't even had a full season yet after injury last year, but third place, again, shining for KTM just when they needed their other two guys to come through. Hoffer produced, and I'm sure great for his confidence going forward. He knows he has the pace now.
Yeah, I had his name on the podium, but unfortunately then the first moto happened. Unfortunately for him, because he definitely had the speed for the podium. But, after a disappointing first moto, he did not let it get to him, and he came out and he delivered in race 2. The thing that impressed me most about Hoffer is the smooth style that he has. He makes it look all so easy and effortless. It doesn't even look like he's pushing, but it all comes very easy for him. And also when he's battling with guys, like when he was battling with Renault, he knew exactly where to put the bike to stop Renault from coming past. And he's a very intelligent and a very smooth rider, and he's got everything to be a future world champion, in my opinion.
Simon Langenfelder, this guy needs to be more well known because the performances he's putting in at the minute are fantastic. He had 2 brilliant motos at Matterley Basin, 5th and 6th, and consistent, strong in the motos. Didn't get overawed by the company he was fighting with. Big fist pump when he crossed the line in the second moto. He obviously achieved his goals. Knew he rode well, and hopefully a breakthrough ride for the German. And there could be a lot more of this to follow because this guy looked strong and controlled, mentally solid, no mistakes. He's young. He's so much more to learn, and he's already this good. He's definitely one to keep an eye on this season because his progression could get pretty quick from here on out.
Absolutely. With the way he rides, he reminds me a lot like Hoffer, actually, the way that he's so smooth and in control, and he hits his mark every corner, every lap. Really good to watch. Technically very good on the bike. 6th and 5th in an absolutely stacked MX2 class, it has to be said. But that kid's going to be good. Him and I think, in terms of potential, him and Hoffer have the most potential, I think, in the class possibly, and maybe De Wolf, but he's in his rookie season. But Lackenfelder is definitely one to keep an eye on. Very, very impressive after missing a lot of racing last year, but it hasn't affected him whatsoever in the slightest. He's slotted in and he looks at home at that gas, and yeah, 6th overall, 7th in the championship. This kid has a lot of talent, and he's one people should be keeping an eye on.
Talking of potential, a guy what I would like to put into that bracket of one to keep an eye on with a very, very bright future is Thibaut Benistant. He showed it in the first moto. He was running second until he crashed, but almost as impressive as running second was whenever he got up just behind the main leading pack. He got back up, got into his rhythm instantly and stuck with that main pack. He wasn't able to make the passes he probably would have wanted to, but that first moto, the track was pretty flat and it wasn't easy to pass for anyone, but Thibaut Benistant was very impressive. Second moto didn't go as well, mid-pack start, battling to come through, but Benistant, if he gets the starts, the guy is a class act, and on the Yamaha, he has the power, he has the team around him, he's the right people around him with Marnik Bavort's and experience now. It's easy to forget with the way him and Guadagnini are riding. This is their first year in MX2. There's going to be so much more to come from them, but I think Benistant, the results maybe don't totally reflect how well he was riding, but he was on the pace with the top 5, and if things had went a bit better with starts and no mistakes, he actually could have been on the podium. So he's going to be another guy to definitely keep a good eye on this season, because there's could be moments of brilliance from him as well.
Absolutely, and after Russia, he probably would have been disappointed with his factory Yamaha debut. So he was able to rebound for Mallory Basin, and like you said, running right at the front. In the first motor, he was very, very impressive. No issues running the pace at the front after a good start, and he ended up 5th and 9th for 7th overall. Very, very solid. I feel like people expect more from Benistant because he's an EMX 250 champion, and that's maybe fair enough, but people need to remember that it's always been in the 2nd or 3rd year of those classes is when he's shown his best. So I feel like after he will obviously have good rides this year because he's too good not to, and especially when he gets to start, he has the pace to run with the boys at the front. And but as he learns more and more in the class and adapts to the riders and the bike, I feel like next year he can really be the danger man. Can be a bit like Renault after a good year last year. Coming into this year, he was expected to be a title contender. I feel like Benistant's same sort of profile as Renault.
Right, what do we say about Jago Gertz? Good first moto, well, a decent first moto. He didn't get a good start. His riding looked good. He just didn't get away with the guys, and he obviously still isn't fully healthy. But 7th place there, solid, gaining points on Vial. But that second moto, it was a bit of a throwback to last year. Just mistakes, bad starts, everything he didn't want to do. No points, 2 crashes. After the first crash, he'd actually come back pretty good, back into the points, showing determination. But he maybe tried a bit too hard again, crashed, no points. Just a disaster for Jago Gertz in this championship hunt. Tom Vial is still obviously on 50 points, but Gertz is only on 33 and 11th in the championship. This is not the start of the season he wanted, and I know he has been injured, and the first round was pretty decent, but that no points score in the second moto at Matterley Basin has really hurt him.
Yeah, it's hard to, under the circumstances, it's hard to criticise the riding. The riding's actually good, and the speed's good. I mean, the pass Rowan van der Moosdijk in Moto 1 and finished 7th. I thought that was a good ride, but the problem with Jago is the first laps. He can't get out of that gate at times, and when he doesn't, he's giving himself a problem. And especially at the moment, because it's not everyone's there, and it's just frantic action, and he probably doesn't want to be in amongst those riders flying everywhere across the track, and it's dodgy business outside the top 10. 15th to 25th is chaos at times, so he needs to position himself better in the motos. If he can do that, the speed under the circumstances with the knee injury is fine. He needs to get out of that gate and stop crashing. If he can do that, I think good things will come. But yeah, it's going to be a difficult one for him to get this world title that he so desperately has the talent to deliver.
And the problem as well is last year him and Vial were the two guys to beat, generally, more often than not. But this year, with what happened to Vial yesterday, with Gertz with the knee injury and that DNF, these other guys are coming in. Fernandez now leads the championship. He's confident. Maxime Renault just got his first win. He's confident. Guadagnini won his first race. Hoffer's proven himself again. Langenfelder's getting better. You've Benestant, another rookie. Pasarame, a championship contender. All these guys are getting confidence. They're not looking at Gertz as a guy who's maybe the guy to beat anymore, a guy they have to overpower to try and win a championship. I'm not sure any of those guys are thinking about Jago Gertz right now, and Jago needs to start asserting himself to be that guy to beat. And it's going to be difficult from here because the other ones have confidence, and they're starting to feel this is the championship they can win now.
Well, this is it exactly. You're right. But it's we don't actually know how bad this knee injury is. This is the thing. Is he riding in pain? He's been pretty quiet about it. I know he felt better for England than he did in Russia, but it's pretty clear he's not 100% on the bike. So when will he be 100%? This is the question. I feel like whenever he's 100%, it won't take him too long to stamp his authority in the class because he clearly has the talent and the speed. That's certainly not an issue when he's 100%. So it's all about when he can get back to being comfortable on the bike again and showing his best. I would imagine he's probably not able to ride too much between GPs either, which, you know, if you're not able to prepare like that in between races, it can have an effect on you and your speed. So it'll be interesting to see how this season goes for Jago. It's a bit of unknown territory at the moment.
Yeah, because he's always sort of been one of the next guys coming up, but now there's guys younger than him starting to make waves in the class. So it's going to be very important that he tries to, or that his knee injury can get back to 100%. But even then, with everyone else having more confidence brings speed, and speed brings more confidence. It's a snowball effect. So Jago's at the bottom of that hill again. He's searching for confidence. He's searching for fitness. So the time he gets back up to his speed, he could have more competition at that level than he had last year. So it's going to be something to keep an eye on. Of course, his talent is undeniable. And I don't think he can question his desire and his work ethic. The guy is strict on himself. He's dedicated. He wants to win. He feels he has a lot of boxes ticked, but that just these wee mistakes keep happening, unfortunately, and it's getting the better of him at the minute. It is a long championship, but Jago has to obviously get healthy first, but also the starts, and maybe bad starts are being increased because of low confidence with the knee injury. But it's a snowball effect in the negative direction that he has to try and turn around quickly. A guy just mentioned actually, Wilson Todd. I thought he rode very solid all day and around the top 10, both motos. Great for Steve Dixon, his lead rider essentially in the top 10, but also mentioned to Taylor Hamill. He rode really, really well. Really, really well. Both motos. First moto was fantastic. Well in the points, looked very comfortable doing it, and a big GP for him. As far as I remember, he missed Russia, so very impressive for him, and a great all round weekend for Steve Dixon. His two riders performing. Great racing at Matterley Basin. Just fantastic day all round for him. But I felt Hamill was a standout performer, especially in that first moto.
Yeah, to start with Wilson Todd, he raced Matterley Basin last year, and he was a bit off the pace, it has to be said. Fast forward over a year, and very, very impressive turnaround compared to last year. 8th overall with the 10th and 11th, and I believe he's still riding a stock bike, so the potential's definitely there now. I feel like he's improved a lot coming over to the GPs and racing rougher and more technical tracks. It's obviously had an effect because he's really stepped it up over the last year, and 8th overall, very, very good. He should only continue to get better as he as he gets more the equipment and gets himself fully fit after that arm pump surgery. Taylor Hamill, absolutely fantastic. Did not expect that in the first moto, P12 and MX2. I'm not even sure if he's raced I think he's maybe done a few home GPs before, but apart from that, that's very, very impressive to run that pace, really coming from the British Championship. So, because the field is stacked, so to go 12-20 to get points in both motos and the 18th overall, definitely something to build on there. And it'll be interesting to see if he can show this speed outside England now. That's the next challenge for him. But certainly a good start to life in the GP career for him.
Another Brit who impressed a lot was Ashton Dickinson on his debut with Hitachi KTM fueled by Milwaukee. He was somehow, just checking the overalls here, he was somehow 20th overall, which was a wee bit unfair because he got 14th in the first moto and 19th in the second race. So at no point was he ever 20th in either moto, but the way everything landed, he was 20th overall. But don't let that fool you. He was riding very, very well. Battled Hamill most of the way in the first moto. Debut for the team. I'm not sure the team or Ashton could have asked for anything better at his home Grand Prix and debut for a good solid GP team. It's a great opportunity for him. Obviously, our thoughts are still with Bas Vassen on his recovery. Actually, a quick update us on Instagram. He was standing up again, so that's obviously fantastic news, and we wish him all the best because he's been through a lot, and not just with this injury but previous injuries as well. So just thoughts with him. We're not forgetting about him, but Ashton Dickinson, brilliant performance. It's not easy to do what he did mentally, to come in with a GP class on a new team, home GP as well, which can sometimes, with pressure in front of friends and family and your own fans, can go negatively. But Ashton seemed to rise to the occasion and rode really well both motos. Points in and MX2 isn't easy to come by, and he was there both motos, taking home some points for the team and himself.
Yeah, just on Bas Vassen, I would like to send my best wishes to him and his family. Lovely family, and fingers crossed he can make a full recovery, and we'll see him back in the paddock soon. Fingers crossed. And yeah, Ashton Dickinson, he was also very impressive. I think Hamill impressed me a little bit more, only because he hasn't got the GP experience. Ashton Dickinson rode some wildcard rounds last year as a privateer, but it's nice that he's got an opportunity with the Hitachi fueled by Milwaukee KTM team now. So that's a big opportunity for him. I feel like he'll benefit a lot from that, because I feel like he told me he had the sort of near guess settings before and then work it out after practice, on him by himself. At least now he has a team around him, and that'll help him with bike settings and things like that. So 14th, 19th, very, very solid. And he has the GP experience, so I feel like he'll be capable of doing that at other tracks outside the UK as well.
Okay, here comes the difficult topic, Conrad Mewse. By all accounts, Conrad, he rode on Saturday at a practice track, and he was apparently unbelievably fast. Coming in, especially with Vial's injury, although even before that, I thought he could have a shout for a podium and even a moto win when Vial got hurt. I really thought he was going to set the world alight and at least have one moto where he was just on the pace and challenging those guys like Renault, Guadagnini, Fernandez, Bersami for race wins and podiums. But it just didn't happen. It didn't happen all day. His starts were absolutely terrible, and it also must be said the track was not easy to pass on, especially that first moto. So he put himself at a massive disadvantage to start with. But the first moto, his riding just wasn't what you expect. The week before at Fox Hill, he blitzed everyone. He was a level ahead of Wilson Todd, never mind Ashton Dickinson and Taylor Hamill. But yet in that first moto, he just couldn't come through. He couldn't catch Hamill or Dickinson, who he had, as I said, been on a different level to the week before. So there's still a bit of work to do with Conrad Mewse, not on talent at all. It's just executing under this GP pressure. He knows, I'm sure, as much as anyone else, how good he is, how much talent he has, and that he just needs to get out of this gate. And I feel if he gets out of the gate, most people don't have the ability, but he's the ability just to click into a race-winning podium pace, top 5 pace of the best riders in the world. But Unfortunately, it didn't happen. I will say the second moto, he had another atrocious start, but he definitely rode better. You could see he had more flow, a bit more momentum around the corners, and it was a wee bit more like the real Conrad Muse. But imagine for him, it's never mind everyone else. It's got to be so frustrating because he's such a brilliant rider. He's so much talent, and everyone just wants to see him perform to the level and ride at the speed he can. But I say in his defence, it was his first GP of the year. He did miss Russia. He had been ill, but on the starts did not help one iota. But Conrad Muse, that is not what Conrad Muse can do. He can do a lot better than that. And as I say, he did definitely ride better the second moto, but he has to put himself up there and get the starts, I think, to really show what he can do, because coming through the pack hasn't always been his forte, but we know when he does get the start, he can run the pace with most of the top riders in the world. So starts for Conrad Muse to get this confidence back up so everyone can see just what a brilliant rider he is.
Yeah, Conrad Muse, where do you start? I just don't know. He's so much talent, so much ability on the bike, and it just didn't work out for him this weekend. Very frustrating to watch. The team would be better off telling him it's a British Championship. Because at the British Championship, I mean, he waxes those guys by half a minute, and then he gets to his GP, and it just doesn't go to plan at times. And next week he could go 4-4. It's a bit unpredictable at the moment. First moto, I was very disappointed with the way he rode. I know he got a bad start, but Kaido Wolf's never seen McCready Basin before, never rode there, passed him and pulled away from him. That just shouldn't be happening for a man for Conrad Muse's ability, and especially at a track that he's usually good at. Second moto, at least the positive is he ended the weekend riding the best he had rode in the moto, so that's one good thing and something to build on. But mentally, he has a lot of work to do. But it's quite sad to see when somebody of his ability is riding around in 15th, because that shouldn't be the case. He's got all the talent in the world, and hopefully he can sort the mental side of the sport out. If he gets that side sorted, we all know he has the speed and talent to deliver good results and getting that podium that he's been chasing his whole MX2 career so far.
I think too it shows you just how difficult it is to run at the front. You need to tick so many boxes, and Conrad has a lot of those boxes ticked, but it's just that final one of consistency, mental, and maybe self-confidence. I'm not quite sure what the final ingredient is, but as you say, if he can find that, there's no reason he can't run at the front. But it's World Championship motocross. Everybody's fast, and if you're just off your game a wee bit, you get a bad start, you can be where Conrad is, battling outside the top 15, not really seeing top 10, which with a rider of his ability should be. But this sport isn't easy, and whenever you're racing a strong level of MX2, which it is this year, you have to be on your game and you have to execute starts in order to allow your talent to blossom in the races.
Absolutely, and there's no doubt about it. He will have good races, no doubt about it. He's too good not to have good races, but it's the consistency that he needs to improve on and being there every single week. I mean, he had a good season last year, but I feel like this year is a massive year for him because he doesn't have, I think next year's his last year in the class, if I'm not mistaken. So, you know, it's motocross, you've got a short career as it is, and the one thing riders want to achieve is achieve what they think they can to the best of their ability. And at the moment, Conrad hasn't done that. And he probably won't have done that until he gets some podiums, because he absolutely has the talent to be standing on that podium majority of weeks. So it's a big season for him, and hopefully he can live up to the pressure and expectations. But yeah, just like you said, it's not easy. Everybody's fast this year, and it's a war zone out there, and you gotta put in the hard work and dedication. And I'm sure Conrad, the talent will come through, and it's only a matter of time before he does get on the box.
Just finally as well, a couple of riders I want to mention. Bastian Bodam, again, he was quick in Russia, and he backed it up with a 10th overall in Matterley Basin. Always a wee bit under the radar, but he's riding very well this year. And Michael Harrop, it looked like until 3 laps to go, he was going to have a decent day, top 10, both motos. It looked like he wasn't taking too much risk, but then he had a big crash down a hill 3 laps to go that sort of ruined what looked to be a satisfactory weekend. Sometimes Harrop, he can leave you pretty impressed with his raw speed. but consistency hasn't always been there. Today it looked like it was. But one mistake sort of ended point scoring possibilities in the second race. But Harrop overall has to be pretty pleased with that. He was knocking on the door, the back end of the lead group really. If he'd got some better starts, I think he had the pace for that. So Harrop can take confidence, but again, a wee mistake. He needs to start cutting them out. But overall, decent speed, decent showing for Michael Harrop, and hopefully a few better starts, and we can see him a wee bit more at the front as well.
Yeah, the two Danish talents. I did say after Russia, I was expecting Bastian Bodam to get in the top 10 soon. And whilst he didn't go top 10 in a moto, 11:16 was enough to give him 10th overall. I think we'll have to remember it's his rookie season. Last year, he had injury issues, so he wasn't himself at the races. Last year, he had more to give. And I feel like he's had a good winter and he's fully fit now and he's shown his potential. To get 10th overall in MX2 and not on a factory bike is good going. So he can be happy with his weekend. And I feel like we can see more of that as the season progresses. And Mikael Harrop, it was so very close to a very good weekend. The raw speed's not an issue and the talent's not an issue when he, especially the speed when he's riding like that's good. Russia was a wee bit disappointing, but he had rebounded and at a track that he's good at, because of course he got the podium at McCready Basin last year, but he was really charging that second moto, and he was actually catching the riders in front of him. It's easy to say on hindsight, but maybe he should have just brought home the result, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, 14th overall isn't a complete disaster, but he definitely should have been in the top 10 this weekend, so frustrating from that side of it, but at least he's not injured. That's the main thing, because the medical flags were out and it was looking bad, but he got back on the bike and rode back to the pit. So fingers crossed it'll be all good for Italy.
Whenever I saw the medical flags, I feared the worst for him, but I was happy to hear he's healthy and can get back into this championship this weekend in Italy. His teammate Rowan van der Mustang, I want to talk about him a little bit. Again, a wee bit like Russia, solid, not massively whoa speed, but I feel Rowan he's doing well, but I still think he's capable of another level. I really rate this guy. I think he hasn't shown us yet this season his full potential, and he's still the 5th overall there at Matterley Basin. So room to improve. He's very, very talented rider. Just a wee bit extra maybe on the starts, get this confidence rolling, and he could be up battling for race wins. But another solid day for Rowan van der Mustang, and he's thereabouts in the championship.
Yeah, I feel like he's kind of doing what Jeffrey is doing in MXGP, just positioning himself. Definitely haven't seen the best of him yet, but he's been consistent. He's thereabouts. First moto from Matterley Basin aside, maybe. Bit disappointing that Jago got past him in that one, but to be 4th in the championship at this stage, I think he'll be happier with the championship than maybe his riding. But he's certainly got a lot more to give, and there's a few sand races coming up here, and honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if he can win a few motos. So after Italy, I feel like his championship battle starts really. It's going to be interesting. Definitely has all the tools there to be the battle for this title if he can get out of the gate, because that Kawasaki's not known for its starts, but if he can do that, he's in with a shout. He's got the talent and the speed, and I feel like he's just simmering at the moment.
Yeah, but Swami hasn't had bad starts on the F&H Kawasaki, so I think Rowan, he has the bike there to get them. Okay, it might not be a guaranteed whole shot type thing, but he should be able to get away good enough to give himself a shot at the win, and perhaps it could be just one good moto, one whole shot, one race win, and then we'll get to see the very best of Rowan van der Mustang, because I feel once he clicks, he's going to be a very, very good rider. I think a potential world champion, or at least a world championship contender.
Yeah, and he might also start to believe he can win as well. I think maybe at the moment he's happy with 3rds and 4ths and being consistent, and maybe he doesn't fully believe he can win every week. But you win once and then you want to win all the time, so it will be interesting to see. But he's certainly the dark horse for me. I feel like people are underestimating how good Rowan is, but he has the speed for sure, and he's got the technique, so it'll definitely be interesting. to see how the season develops for the Dutch talent.
So moving on to Majora next weekend in Italy. Tim Geiser, again, I feel this is a track he should excel at as well as Roman Fevre. Caroli actually said in the press conference he loves riding in Italy, but Majora isn't his favourite track. So the fans that are allowed in there might have to give him an extra bit of encouragement on a track that isn't his favourite. But we saw at the destinations he can ride well there, and we've seen in Russia Caroli can ride well anywhere now. So I don't think you can count the Italian out. Jeffrey Herlings, he's going to want to improve again, although he looks like he's happy for slight improvements at the minute. But Herlings, you never know when it's going to click. So Prado will want to come back. He won't be happy with that second motor. He'll want to prove something. So what are you looking for in Italy this weekend in the MXGP class?
Yeah, I think you summed it up well there. I think Geiser's going to be hard to beat there. And also a lot of Slovenian fans might travel. So, because they're at least quite close, and the Italian GPs are where his fans would go. So he might want to put on a bit of a show for them. So yeah, I'm expecting him to be strong as usual. It's set up really well with Caroli in good form. Herlings being up there, not too far off. He's usually about 10 or 15 seconds from the win. So can he close the gap? It's going to be an interesting GP. Interested to see how they prep the track this weekend. They didn't rip the track as deep for Mallory Basin because they expected rain, so there weren't that many ruts. I feel like this weekend, if the weather forecast in Italy isn't the rain, they're going to rip it deep and there'll be lots of ruts. So that'll be interesting to see how it goes.
I think as well, I mentioned before, but with the level of the track after EMX2, just when it looked like it was going to get pretty technical and rough for the Sunday. So MXGP used to never really touch the track overnight from the Saturday to the Sunday, and then recently, the last year or two, they've started flattening it overnight. So perhaps a bit of a compromise where they could fix maybe the odd dangerous rut or the jump that was proven problematic on the Saturday, but keep the bumps in the track for Sunday. So it'll be interesting to see what direction they go in Majora, but I definitely think a wee bit less track, not so much maintenance. The maintenance is fine, but a wee bit less track leveling could back for better races, because sometimes the guys, especially the first 15 minutes of the first MX2 moto, they're just pinned and it's very hard to make passes. Now, obviously, it develops later on in the day, and we still get some great racing, but it's just something to watch each round to see how they decide to prep the track each weekend. MX2, I think again we aren't quite sure what's going to happen with Tom Vial. So at least Ruben Fernandez, Maxime Renault, Bersami, Van de Moosdijk, Guadagnini, Hoffer. Can Gertz bounce back? There's so many questions in MX2 yet, because nobody has really established themselves as the guy to beat. There's a lot of guys, plural, that are thinking that they can win this championship right now, and we're still waiting for who you're going to be rise to the top, as they say. Maxime Renault has sort of made the first move, but Ruben Fernandez with that red plate, he'll think that looks good on a Honda, and he would want that to go anywhere in the near future as well. So MX2 promises to be very, very exciting this weekend.
Yeah, MX2 is totally wide open now, and they'll all want a bit of what Renault had at the weekend, standing top of the box. So it'll be exciting. I've got my money on a Ren Hoffer podium. I've got my money on that, and a French guy to win. Just be hard packed. Do I have to pick one? It's hard not to pick Renault.
There can't be two winners.
That's true. It's hard not to pick Renault, but I feel like Buzrami will have the pace to win. Whether or not he can cut the mistakes out is another question. So I'll go with Renault. I think he'll be more solid.
Yeah, I think he's the safer pick, and also he's the confidence now. So good bike that generally gets out of the gate pretty decent. Maxime Renault, he was quick last season. Now he's on the factory bike. He's just won a GP. He's got all the momentum, so he could be the favourite going into this weekend. But there's so many guys that think this is their chance as well. It's very hard to really say with any conviction and certainty just who's the overwhelming favourite. And you can't even count out Tom Vial. If that hand's okay, that guy's so good, he could rip 2 hole shots and make himself a contender straight away again. So it promises to be very exciting. And we're only one day off the British GP, but already we're really looking forward to Italy and to see what can happen there. So that rounds off our British GP review. And if anyone would like to follow us on Instagram or Facebook, feel free, as well as iTunes, Spotify, and the podcast is also available on YouTube. So thanks again for everyone listening. And thanks again, Andy, for your contribution and thoughts and insight into the British Grand Prix. Thanks, everyone. Goodbye. Goodbye, Andy.
Thanks, guys.